for today we have for you is top 20 most badass Kamen Rider characters. Other than that, hit the like button, hit the sub, let's get into it.
Throughout Kamen Rider's
having a
incredible
wonderful day.
history, we've watched in amazement as some of the coolest and most badass Toku characters ever graced our screens.
Alright.
From being physically intimidating, to having insanely high levels of willpower, and being just plain cool, this list is gonna rank the most badass Kamen Riders of all time. So without any delay, let's start off the list at number 20. The first badass Kamen Rider we're gonna look at is Kazumi Sawatari, who becomes Kamen Rider Grease. Over the course of an intriguing character arc, Kazumi would switch from a foe to an anti-hero to an ally of Kamen Rider build. Before Hokuto's invasion of Toto, Kazumi was selected to lead a squad tasked with retrieving full bottles and Pandora box panels. Soichi Isurugi gave him a Sklash driver, which enabled him to transform into Kamen Rider Grease.
Kamen Rider Grease.
Ooh, I like how you said that.
The strike force was
I like
completed
it.
by the addition of his 3 workers, who became Hard Smash. Ultimately, Kazumi and Bill joined forces, and he plays a significant role in the series. Sometimes he can be unpredictable or even erratic, which piques the audience's curiosity because they don't always know what he'll do or how he'll respond to various events. Grease stands out because he fully embraces the robot motif with his semi-transparent helmet, gold undersuit, and bulky silver armor. He also has his Blizzard form, with its great-looking metallic blue
I'm not
suit.
gonna lie, that looks badass. I love it. Love the colors. Colors go
Kohei
really good.
Takeda, who also played Otoya Kurenai in Kiva, played Kazumi and Build. And I'd say the biggest reason why he makes this list is his willingness to put himself in the line of fire, along with his nonchalant attitude, a stark contrast from our number 19 entry.
You see the fit? Ah, that shit tough. I fucking love this Kamen Rider.
Next up on our list of badass riders,
The suit looks fire. The colors go well together. The reason why he does everything for revenge and shit. Love it.
is Keiwa Sakurai, also known as Kamen Rider Tycoon from Geats. He goes through an epic story arc during the show. He wasn't always a badass. In fact, at the beginning of the series, he was just a young man trying to land a job, but he eventually competes in the Desire Grand Prix. Over the course of the show, he goes from being lighthearted and positive to becoming extremely cynical, and when he loses his sister, he becomes obsessed with revenge, leading him to enlist the help of Tsurumi to accomplish his goals. Initially, Keiwa was represented by the colors black and light green with a Tanuki theme, but his anguish drove him to the Bujin sword form. This black version of Tycoon is a lethal weapon used for Keiwa's pain and rage, resulting in an immensely potent and brutally effective Kamen Rider that wields a katana and wears a cape. At this point, he adopts an alpha personality that knows he's wreaking havoc, but he just doesn't really give a fuck. Keiwa was portrayed by Ryuga Sato, and Tycoon's Black Shogun persona was the stuff of legend. He was definitely a badass, not unlike our next writer.
この日を待っていた。
Next we look at Terui Ryu, or Kamen Rider Axel. He has a cool personality, but sometimes he can become really intense and focused, and this along with his absurd speed makes him a force to be reckoned with. He's usually really serious and prepared for anything. Ryu also oversees the paranormal crime division of the Futo Police Department, which is responsible for tracking down dopants, who he destroys without a second thought. Ryu would perfect his abilities and increase his speed with the help of Shroud, and this leads to him making use of a new form called Trial. Axel's base form has a distinctive red color that's clearly modeled after a motorcycle, while his Trial form has an attractive shade of blue with a lighter armor style.
これが新しいアクセル。トライアル。
Minehiro Kinomoto, who auditioned for the roles of Shotaro and Philip, played Ryu. Axel was one of the best speed-themed riders ever, with interesting skills and an intense attitude, making him a definite badass, much like number 17 on our list.
Amazon.
Next on our list is Jin Takayama, or Kamen Rider Amazon Alpha, an anti-hero that was one of the main riders of Amazons. He also did research for Nozama Pharmacy. He's driven to destroy all Amazons in existence, and he even turned himself into one in order to do this. He wasn't always cynical or cocky, but he becomes that way because of his abilities. Alpha had a rider suit that was similar to the original Kamen Rider Amazon, but his suit is bright red with green eyes and deadly piranha fins on his forearms and boots. And his close range attacks are absolutely brutal. Jin was played by a Toku veteran named Masashi Taniguchi, who also appeared in Go-Go 5, Saber, and Ultraman Decker. Amazon Alpha was a skilled anti-hero, and he looked cool, with an attitude, landing him a spot right here. But he didn't have quite the same level of intensity as our next rider.
I like that. I like the colors right there.
Number 16 is Masato Kusaka, who was the main user of Kamen Rider Kaixa. Masato was a complex and interesting character who's a talented fighter and strategist. He's motivated by a desire for power, and his own past tragedy keeps him focused. He's extremely clever and he fights with heightened aggression. Kaixa had a stylish and unique black and gold suit featuring purple eyes. Kaixa is famous for his unique weapon, the Kaixa blade gun, that can be used as both a gun or a sword. Masato is played by Kohei Murakami, an industry veteran that's appeared in a ton of Toku projects, including Kamen Rider Kabuto, Zyuohger, Dawn Brothers, and Ultraman Mebius. Masato was a focused and driven presence within FIs, and his suit looked great. He was an integral part of the story, with great character development, much like our next rider on the list. Coming in at number 15 is Yua Yaiba, or Kamen Rider Valkyrie. Within the events of 01, Yua was a member of AIMS as a partner to Isamu Fua, but she was secretly working for Gaia Mats before turning against him. This gave Yaiba an interesting story that showed her drive and professionalism, contrasted by her struggle to follow her own will. She uses several cool and powerful forms, including the sleek and speedy rushing cheetah form. Yaiba is tenacious and determined, unbothered by pressure situations, and she usually has an ace up her sleeve to get the job done. Yaiba was played by Hiroe Igeta, and Valkyrie is easily one of the most popular female riders of all time, landing her a spot right here. But her fighting skills don't quite match up to the kung fu style of our number 14 entry on the list.
Kamen Rider Meteor.
Next up is the martial arts master himself, Ryusei Sakuta, or Kamen Rider Meteor. He was the second rider of Fawcett, and he's known for his Bruce Lee-inspired fighting style, which focused on fast and impactful strikes. He was a transfer student at Amanogawa High School, and he kept his true identity a secret. Meteor's helmet is particularly noteworthy because it has an asymmetrical design that incorporates a meteor. I also really like the stars on his black undersuit. Ryusei is a martial arts genius, particularly in the Seishin Darinken School of Martial Arts, which makes him a formidable opponent in any battle.
His suit is really unique. I like it.
Ready?
Ryusei, who is portrayed by Ryo Yoshizawa, also has the ability to unleash his Meteor Storm form for even greater strength and a really unique blue and yellow outfit. Ryusei is based on Bruce Lee himself, as well as Light Yagami from Death Note. Meteor was an ass kicker, and he was unlike any other rider in history, which earned him a place on this list. And if there were two of him, he might rank even higher, like our next entry on the list.
Ooh,
a pair of riders from Kabuto are here at number 13. Of course, I'm referring to Shun Kageyama and So Yaguruma, who are better known as Kamen Rider Punch Hopper and Kick Hopper, respectively. In Kabuto, these two riders are lovingly referred to as the Hell Brothers, and they excel in close quarters combat. Both riders were former users of Kamen Rider The Bee, and both have cause to detest Soji Tendo, which motivates them to retaliate in the cruelest way possible. These two riders both look great. Punch Hopper has a classic looking bronze paint job, and Kick Hopper has a bright green suit. Masato Uchiyama played Shun, who also played the Rabbit Orphanog in Phase, as well as being featured in Ultra Q Dark Fantasy and Ultraman Nexus. Hidenori Tokiyama played the roles of both Hiroto Suto, also known as Goon Gold in Go-Onger, and the voice of the Molech Imogen in Dino. These hoppers were experts at hand-to-hand combat, and their malicious nature made them a force to be reckoned with within Kabuto. Quite different from the law enforcement rider that's next up on our list. Number 12 is Makoto Hikawa, who goes by the name Kamen Rider G3. Fighting Gorongi, Makoto is a police officer who uses the G3 system, a type of power armor. This armor was really unusual as he physically puts it on in pieces rather than henching. Makoto frequently has a very direct tone when interacting with others, as well as a strong sense of duty. Other rider systems would eventually emerge from the G3 system over the years, each with its own users, but Makoto is by far the best known. With a blue and silver paint job, his armor definitely looked like it was police issued. It even looked armored enough to survive a real-world firearm attack.
I do like
Jun Kanama played Makoto, and he also played a restaurant customer in Ryuki's final episode. G3 was a representation of how a Kamen Rider might look in the real world, and this along with his focus and determination landed him a spot right here. Although Makoto is a badass, he doesn't time travel like our next rider. Our 11th entry in the list is Kamen Rider Gaze from Gyo. In 2068, Gaze joined the Resistance in an effort to alter the course of history and prevent Sogo from becoming the heartless dictator known as Oma Gyo. Gaze was extremely aggressive towards Sogo because of what he knew Sogo would become. Even though they eventually get along better, Gaze is always considering the chance that Sogo will one day turn into Oma Gyo. Gaze is a skilled fighter who can win fights either by his brute strength or by using stealth techniques to surprise his adversaries. Gaze's suit is kinda mid, but his character and abilities are what land him on this list. Gaku Oshida portrayed Gaze, drawing heavy inspiration from Kaixa and Sasor. Despite his strength, he's edged out by our next rider due to pure style.
Pure style. Let's see this. Facts. Yep, I love it.
Sokichi Narumi, the founder of the Narumi Detective Office, is notable for his trademark fedora and for being one of the most fashionable riders of all time. He henshins into Kamen Rider Skull and is featured on Double. He's Akiko's father and was also Shotaro's former mentor. Kamen Rider Skull, which was inspired by Shotaro Ishinomori's Skullman character, had a suit that looked a lot like Joker's, with a black and white color scheme instead of purple. Plus he had a cool helmet that fittingly looked like a skull.
I just love it, bro.
Sokichi was played by Koji Kikawa, a singer who's expressed a ton of love for the character and regards it as one of his favorite achievements. Skull is undoubtedly one of the coolest riders ever, with a level of swagger and confidence that's hard to match, but he doesn't have world-destroying power like the next rider on our list. Next is Kamen Rider Kuuga, whose user is Yusuke Godai. He marked the beginning of the Heisei era after Kamen Rider returned to TV following an 11-year absence. To fight the Gorongi, Yusuke discovers an old relic that enables him to transform into Kuuga. Over time, he would go through several transformations, granting him new looks and weapons. Yusuke is usually upbeat, and he tries to keep his smile even in difficult circumstances, but he can definitely handle himself when conflict arises. He's made a significant commitment to self-improvement, gaining numerous abilities throughout the years. He's also extremely courageous in risky situations, ready to put himself in danger to defend others. Kuuga had a variety of forms with varying color palettes, the most common of which was his standard red form. He also had an amazing black and gold form called Ultimate Form, which I previously ranked as the best final form in history. Jo Odagiri portrayed Yusuke, and Kuuga has become insanely popular over the years. That along with his immense power landed him a spot right here, but he's edged out slightly by the pure intensity that our next rider brings to the table.
Form is so cool.
Keisuke Jin, also known as X-Rider or Kamen Rider X, is next at number 8. Keisuke and his father were betrayed by Keisuke's fiancée. To save Keisuke's life, his father would transform him into a Kaizorg, which would make him X-Rider before his father eventually passed away. He was motivated to avenge his father and defeat the government of darkness. Throughout the series, Keisuke experiences a ton of character growth. His father's death and his fiancée's betrayal drive him to the brink. This motivated him to vehemently oppose the government of darkness. He has a brutal fighting style and approach to combat. You can just feel his anger. This gives a ton of contrast to his personality at the beginning of the series. X-Rider's appearance is a distinctive silver suit with a red chest piece, and his helmet is meant to resemble a skull, paying tribute to the Shotaro Ishinomori created Skullman manga.
Okay.
Ryo Hayami portrayed Keisuke, and the tragic story and over-the-top intensity of X-Rider definitely qualify him as a badass, much like the next rider on our list.
Oh, hell yeah.
Next is Rin Akiyama, or Kamen Rider Knight. This secondary rider has often been compared to Batman due to his brooding personality and bat-themed design. Even though he's a secondary rider, he's such a focal point of the narrative, particularly near the conclusion of the series, that a lot of fans view him as being on par with Kamen Rider Ryuki, who is of course the show's namesake. Rin enters the Rider War to save his fiancée, who's in a coma. He's the definition of a lone wolf and can be harsh and excessively straightforward, oftentimes rubbing the other characters the wrong way. Knight obviously has the appearance of a knight with the added bat aesthetic, which gives him a really distinctive look. He has a cape and a slotted visor that calls back to the look of a medieval knight. He also has survive form, which turns his armor blue and gold. Satoshi Matsuda, who also played a crab Orphanok in Faiz, played Rin. Knight's an essential part of the Kamen Rider Ryuki story, and his distinctive look and intensity helped him make a lasting impression in the history of the series, very similar to our number 6 rider. Next is Kamen Rider Vulcan, whose user is Isamu Fua. Fua has an intense demeanor and drive, making him a formidable opponent in battle. He collaborated with Yua Yaiba, also known as Kamen Rider Valkyrie, in AIMS. The chip in Fua's brain created false memories, such as those of Humagears mercilessly killing people in his community, leading him to develop a strong distrust of them. He eventually reached a narrative arc where he and Yaiba would fight, and he also acquired a number of other forms during the series, before finally reaching a tragic conclusion to his story. Vulcan's outfit has a wolf motif with a blue and white color palette and red highlights, giving him a really modern look. He delivers strong blows and strikes, but this drains a lot of energy from his body, leading to severe pain. Ryutaro Okada played Fua. Vulcan was memorable due to the combination of Fua's intensity and his distinctive wolf look. He was definitely a badass, but lacked the martial arts mastery of our next rider.
Damn.
Next is Sakura Igarashi, also known as Kamen Rider Jeanne. She's the younger sister of Iki and Daji Igarashi, and she transforms into a rider form that's inspired by a snake. Sakura, the Igarashi family's youngest member, is skilled in karate, having begun her training with the goal of becoming invincible. She became Kamen Rider Jeanne after being abducted and caught in the midst of a conflict with the Deadmans, later accomplishing her goal of self-empowerment. Jeanne's distinctive blue and orange color palette featured high boots and tendrils. It was clear that she had a karate background while Henshin, because she often used her hand-to-hand fighting abilities to defeat her enemies in an aggressive way. Jeanne was one of the most formidable female riders in the history of Kamen Rider, and Ayake Emoto did a great job portraying her, but she didn't have godlike power like our next rider. Next is Ace, or Kamen Rider Geats, a dude with a ton of swagger and style, along with being insanely strong in terms of power. Ace walks with an unparalleled confidence, and when we first meet him, strangers in the streets admire and compliment him. Ace transforms into Geats as a contestant in the Desire Grand Prix. We discover that he's actually the reincarnation of a man named Ace, who won the tournament numerous times in the past and molded the world to his liking. As Geats, he embodies a fox design, and Ace is cunning like a fox, able to come up with unique strategies that lead him him to victory. Geats' base suit design is white with reddish-orange highlights, and it has a helmet shape that mimics a traditional Japanese kitsune mask. He also wears a scarf in honor of some of the vintage riders from earlier in the franchise. Although Geats has a variety of skills that vary depending on his selected raise buckle, he becomes a godlike figure with the ability to manipulate reality at will and do almost anything he wants when he activates Geats 9. Hideyoshi Khan played Ace and delivered an outstanding performance for a fantastic season. Ace's coolness, along with the godlike abilities of Geats, will undoubtedly make him a rider who's remembered as one of the greats in the franchise's history. The only way he could be any more of a badass is if he was able to use powers of other riders, much like the number 3 entry on our list.
Oh, yeah.
No list of badass riders would be complete without Tsukasa Kadoya, better known as Kamen Rider Decade, the destroyer of worlds himself. He travels to the realms of other Heisei-era riders as they merge together into one. When his show aired, he was probably the most versatile rider of all time, and he has immeasurable power since he can henshin into the other riders from the Heisei era. With its green eyes, helmet mold that was unlike any other, and black, white, and magenta color palette, it would be a major understatement to say that Decade's suit design was unique.
Yeah.
Masahiro Inoue, a skilled toku actor who also starred in the Gado series as Jinga, portrayed Tsukasa. Due to his extreme strength, Kamen Rider Decade is an extremely well-known and powerful rider, and he definitely deserves a place right here. Decade makes the list for very different reasons than our next entry, whose combat ability truly sets him apart. Coming into the number 2 spot is Ryuga Banjo, a former pro fighter who transforms into Kamen Rider Cross Z, and he's famous for his tenacity and power. Ryuga became a human-alien hybrid when the alien Evolto attached to him. He would later be framed for murder and banned from boxing as an adult for taking part in a fixed bout. While serving his prison sentence, Faust kidnapped him for testing. Ryuga eventually acquired the ability to henshin into Cross Z, a secondary rider form that combines elements of dragons and fire. While henshined, his combat abilities are enhanced, making him a formidable hand-to-hand fighter. Additionally, his other forms provide him with even more power to utilize. Eiji Akaso, who portrayed Hyuga, was a big fan of riders as a child because he watched them with his grandfather. He also played Hiroki in the second season of Amazons. The term Cross Z is derived from the description to intersect or to connect, and Cross Z was a Kamen Rider that the show's producers put a lot of effort and attention into, resulting in an interesting character that landed a spot right here. Despite Hyuga's combat ability, he's edged out by our number 1 most badass rider, who is the personification of intensity within the franchise.
Ooh.
Our number 1 badass Kamen Rider is Kotaro Minami, the legendary Kamen Rider Black. Kotaro was abducted with his brother Nobuhiko and transformed into Black, making him a potential candidate for the Creation King. Black escaped and retained his independence, but Nobuhiko was transformed into Shadow Moon. The notion that his brother had been corrupted caused Kotaro immense suffering and torment, which greatly increased the story's intensity. Black's suit was designed for utility and functionality, featuring exposed wiring, red eyes, and red and yellow stripes on top of black armor. Every interaction Kotaro had with Gorgum had a sense of anger and rage, creating peak drama. His hand-to-hand combat was brutal, and his fight sequences were hard-hitting and impactful. Tetsuo Kurata, who portrayed Kotaro, brought an unmatched intensity to the character, and as a result, he also had one of the most legendary henshins in history. Minami Kotaro was a significant factor in Kamen Rider Black's lasting reputation as one of the greatest toku shows ever. But those are just my picks for the most badass Kamen Riders. I want to know what you think. Let me know who you would put at the top of this list in the comments. If you're new here, be sure to henshin into a subscriber by hitting that subscribe button. Join my Discord server to hang out with me and other cool toku fans, links in the description, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, it would mean a ton to me if you smack the shit out of that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.
I fuck with it. Hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Don't forget to like button, to sub. Video will be linked in the description down below. And I had to make, I had to think who I'll choose as number 1. But yeah, y'all tell me what y'all thought inside the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless y'all. Be safe. Peace out.